Hey there, all you filthy heathens. This is Kirk coming back to you. I just want to say right off the bat, Happy New Year to everybody. I hope you all had a safe and happy New Year. As for me, if you watched my last video, you'll know that me and my family, we were fighting off COVID for Christmas and New Year. That's what we were doing. So, yeah, I'm just checking in with you guys today. I got a great show for you. Gonna be really quick and to the point. I'm just gonna do a recap of 2021. So in the last video, I told you kind of what my plan was for 2022, and now we're in 2022. And I'm just going to recap 2021 so you kind of get an idea of where we're going as far as what my, again, general plan is to, I'm going to stick to some basic topics and we're just going to burn through them and hopefully have a good time talking about them. So just to get started, what I'm going to do is recap 2021 from an American perspective. I think politics in the United States affects a lot of people around the world. So I think most people I get a lot of views from the UK, a lot of views from Australia. So I think you'll get the point here, because what happens in America is usually either the complete opposite of what's happening in other Western countries, or we're kind of either a little bit behind you guys or you guys are behind us. So it's kind of a give and take that way. So basically I'm going to start here. I'm going to go with the three biggest disasters of 2021. Now, 2021 was a shit year. 2020 was a shit year. The only saving grace for me for 2020 is that in January of 2020, my second child, my daughter, was born. So having a kid, that's, you can't screw up my year by, when I have a little baby at home, and yeah, you just can't mess it up. So, but 2021 was kind of a shit year. It was basically 2020 again. And, I live in California, and we were a state that was just our state does not want to let go of COVID for whatever reason. They don't want to open anything up. And when they do open it up, there's mask mandates, and then there wasn't mask mandates. It was just really weird. There was a time when if you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to wear masks. And then that went away. No, you still have to wear masks. It was just a disaster. And I think it did more on the subject of COVID in 2021. I think 2021 was the year there where we absolutely could not trust the experts. The people that we were told were our betters all the way through 2020, that we needed to trust these people. These people turned out to be the people that we couldn't trust at all on anything. So COVID, I think, is a major disaster from the lockdowns. So many of our states, it's kind of a good thing that many of our states, there's no federal solution, as Joe Biden just recently said. There is no federal solution to COVID. This is going to have to be done at the state level. And that's kind of a good thing that he admitted that, because you can have states take different approaches to it based off of different things in their state. I mean, Arizona, Texas, and Florida should be handling COVID differently than New York, New Jersey, Michigan, and Washington. And the main reason is latitude. I mean, you're going to have different weather, different climates. Everything's going to be different based off of where in the country that state is. So that gives more leeway. But the thing is, I'm stuck in a state that just does not want to let go. We tried to recall the governor. His response to COVID was a disaster. I have a video that goes over that in the archive. So go ahead and take a look at that. But yeah, we try to recall the governor. Our state is full of stupid people who seem to want to hold on to this, because I don't know. I think wearing a mask for a lot of people in California and a lot of people in the US and probably a lot of people around the world, it gives mediocre people an opportunity to feel superior to people that are not beneath them. Essentially, it gives them a chance to feel superior to a lot of other people that they normally wouldn't be able to feel that way about. So the lockdowns have been a disaster. Luckily, there are, I want to say at least 20 states where there's really no lockdowns whatsoever. I mean, even me, until I got COVID, if I went out in public, I tried it out basically between Thanksgiving and when I found out I had COVID. I did not wear a mask in any place unless I was asked to, like specifically by an employee, like, hey, can you please put your mask on? Or, hey, do you have a mask? Then I would put it on because I'm not going to argue with some minimum wage or, $12 an hour person. They're just trying to do their job as best they can. In certain areas in California, there's, the county is the one instituting the mask mandate, and they're sending like health inspectors to these places all the time to, try to get them. And so I get it, you got to do what you got to do. But yeah, I would not even put the mask on. We went Thanksgiving shopping for all of our Thanksgiving food. I didn't have my mask on at all. Nobody said a word. So I'm not gonna wear a mask. Now that COVID is passed, I passed the whole 10-day, since I had some symptoms at all. So I've gotten past that 10 days. I'm done with masks unless I'm asked to. I do have masks, around places. I've got, got this mask here for. Oh, let me show you. Got this mask here for you, so you can see. There you go. So the lockdowns have been a disaster because, number one, and there's more and more evidence that they're not really working. The fact that I got COVID in a lockdown state at a place that has mask mandates, in a county that has mask mandates, I still got COVID from, in that area. It doesn't really matter. The lockdowns really aren't helping at all anymore. I understood the whole 2 weeks to slow the spread. They're not worth it anymore. It's been 2 years. Deaths. I mean, I think this is actually something that, again, is going to hurt Democrats in the midterms. The Democrats took over the entire government, the entire elected branches of government here in the U.S. At the beginning of 2021. And there have been more deaths this year. They took over with a fully functional vaccine, 3 fully operational, fully approved vaccines. And they have more deaths this year from COVID than they had last year. That's not a good track record. How are you saying that you came in and you're going to shut down the virus when more people have died with a vaccine than without a vaccine? So I'm not going to get into I'm not going to call them conspiracy theories, because right now I'm sticking to theories about the vaccines, whether or not, their efficacy and all that stuff. I know they wane. They're talking about boosters for people. Talk to your doctor, do your own research, and then kind of compare and contrast. Like, I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to listen to my doctor if he tells me to get a booster. I got COVID. I'm over it. I don't need any more COVID stuff at all. So I can tell you right now, I'm not going to be listening to my doctor if he recommends a booster, because any doctor to me that doesn't believe in natural immunity, I might consider just getting a different doctor at that point. So, but talk to your doctor if you like your doctor. I'm not telling you how to do your business, but if you think it's best for you, get vaccinated, get boosted. If you got COVID and you have the natural immunity, I'll refer you Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has had some experts that have been banned from Twitter, banned from YouTube. These are people that are immunologists. I think it's Dr. Peter McCullough, and the other one is Dr. Robert Malone. McCullough is one of the most respected and most published immunologists, I think, ever. So go look at, if you haven't seen that podcast, go to Spotify, check out Joe Rogan. That's a great interview. The guy's actually, he's talking about a lot of scientific stuff, but it never really felt boring to me. So I like that. And then Robert Malone is one of the people who invented the mRNA technology that they're using for these COVID vaccines. And he had a lot to say about it. I haven't seen the whole thing yet. I'll probably sit down and watch that tomorrow. But I recommend going and checking that out. If you want to trust the experts, there's 2 experts for you. Check them out. And then you can kind of make your own decisions on the vaccine. But how do you have 3 working vaccines and more people die from COVID than when we didn't have a vaccine? And you want to say, oh, well, we had lockdowns throughout the whole country and throughout the world. Great. But here in the United States, all the states that are currently open, they opened up last May or June, something like that. I think it was the end of April, maybe the end of May. Florida, Georgia, Texas, they all started opening up at the end of April and into May. So what the fuck are you talking about? Okay, all the states that have been open since then, they're still open, and the death rates aren't any higher in those states than they are in lockdown states. California and Florida are always kind of like the same, essentially, as far as numbers, cases, death rates and stuff like that. They tend to all be the same, even though Florida has a much older population, and has a much older population. California is, I think, like the fourth youngest state by population. The fourth youngest state, and Florida is the second oldest. And by population, Florida is like the fourth most populous state, with California being the first. So California is, if they're neck and neck, California is actually underperforming Florida. So how do you have more deaths with a working vaccine, 3 working vaccines? It doesn't make any sense. The vax mandates, I think, on top of that, are just horrible. Number one, they're probably illegal. In fact, Joe Biden even admitted, yeah, they're probably illegal, especially the way he's doing it. Like, he's having our Occupational Safety Administration go through and just call it a workplace safety issue. And it's like, that's not how it's going to work. So COVID has been a complete disaster. It still remains a complete disaster. I'm hoping this Omicron variant basically turns COVID, gives everybody natural immunity to COVID, and that way every more deadly strain of COVID becomes kind of like, bad flu. You basically, everything feels like Omicron. Because my belief, based off of the information I got, from the news and everything that I saw about the symptoms of Omicron, me and my family got Omicron. We never lost our sense of taste and smell, and that's what I've seen is the main difference between these other, the previous variants and Omicron. So, COVID still sucks after almost 2 years. The other thing here in the States, and I'm sure everybody else is feeling it, probably worldwide, gas prices. And I know people watching in Europe, I'm going to say, oh yeah, it's $5 a gallon here, which is really a little over $1 a liter. And you guys are probably thinking, yeah, we've been paying that since the 90s, whatever. That, I don't give a fuck. All right. What I'm saying is that is high gas prices here. And in a lot of places in Europe, you guys have mass transit things, like a whole train system, things like that you can use to get around. I don't think many people in Europe really comprehend just how huge the United States is and how spread out we are. You have to have a car in the US. There's almost no way around it unless you live in the dense metropolitan area. Like, you have to live in New York City, like in Manhattan. You have to live in Chicago, like downtown Chicago. You have to live in Seattle near the Amazon campus. Even in the Bay Area in San Francisco, like in San Francisco, you can probably get away without having a car, but not anywhere else really in the Bay Area. In Los Angeles, you really have to have a car. I mean, Los Angeles is very spread out. There's a lot of space. So, the gas prices are just crazy. These are the highest I've ever seen them. I think the last time I saw them anywhere near this high, I think it was 2009, 2010. They were pushing, they never got to $5 a gallon where I was. Now they're over $5 a gallon. So like, we're not really driving much, which works out. I mean, I work from home, so it's not a huge deal, but yeah, it's getting bad. And gas prices, at least in the US, the high gas prices are linked directly to day one, Joe Biden killing the Keystone Pipeline. It is that reason by itself that gas prices are higher in this country. I mean, there's a lot of other things. Obviously, there's going to be more demand for products now because, things are opening up and, they're opening up more and more in the States. But it still doesn't explain just how quickly, in less than a year, they went from the average gas price in the country went from under $2 a gallon to over $4 a gallon. That makes no sense to have that happen that quickly. It doesn't. So it is linked directly to Joe Biden's disastrous policies on oil. It makes no sense either for him to ruin that, to gut our own energy independence here in the States, and then go ahead and tell Russia, yeah, go ahead with that pipeline. It's like, so what are we going to do? We're going to now import Russian oil and Russian gasoline to the U.S. when we could be exporting American and Canadian oil and gas to Russia? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. We spent, 4 years talking about Trump-Russia collusion, which turned out to be a complete hoax, and we have Joe Biden just bending over and saying, telling Putin, please, sir, can I have another on gas and oil? And nobody bats an eye. And it's absolutely ridiculous. So here, that's disaster number 2, gas prices. That's also something that you feel every single day, because gas prices affect the price of everything. If you are moving something across, if you have to move something by car, there's gas. You have to use gas. If you are transporting yourself to work or school, well, the gas money is going to take out of your paycheck. So that's something that you feel. That is a bill that comes up every single week, at least. I mean, if you're filling up the gas tank probably once a week, you're going to feel that a lot. So yeah, that is no joke. Gas prices are, going so high so quickly. That's not something that is a good thing to see in 2021. Hopefully that's something that gets fixed in 2022. We will see. Now, since I've been bashing on Joe Biden, I might as well stick with it. Inflation. Inflation is something that, this is the highest it's been in my lifetime. I mean, I've grown up with inflation really being more than like 2 or 3% for an entire year. It's usually right around 1%, sometimes less than 1%, sometimes a little bit more, but right around 1%. It's been pretty stable, even during the housing crisis back in 08, 09. Inflation really wasn't that bad for the most part, even though we were spending like crazy. Inflation didn't get that bad. Inflation is crazy now. And I don't want to lump it all onto Joe Biden, because there was a lot of inflationary stuff we were doing in 2020. If I remember correctly, I think it's like 2/3 of all the money printed, all the American dollars printed, they were all printed in the last 2 years. So every dollar that's out there in circulation, it was all printed in the last 2 years. So obviously, you can give some of this blame to Trump and last year, the last Congress and things like that, for the amount of spending they did in, because of COVID. I get that. It is always funny to me. It's like, well, if we were going to just be printing money, instead of just printing money, why didn't we just let everybody go back to work and give everybody a tax holiday for, 6 months? Hey, no taxes. Don't collect any taxes. We're not going to collect any taxes. Don't worry about it. Just, you get 100% of your paycheck and boom, you're done. I don't know why that didn't happen if we were going to be printing money anyway. But hey, I'm sure there's people smarter than me in Congress. I doubt it. Anyway, but that's the thing, is that inflation, Biden's only real legislative win this year was he passed a spending bill, like a COVID relief bill. And I think it was like a $1.5 trillion or something like that. His only win made inflation worse. So his only legislative win, everyone go, yeah, and you took the inflation that was going to happen and you made it worse. It's going to last longer now. So now, I haven't had a chance to really save a lot of money. I've been trying mostly to get out of debt. I've been using this time for COVID to mostly get debt paid off. So I haven't had a chance to spend a lot or save a lot of money. So my money now that I've been saving, that just sits there and kind of just collects some interest, it's worth less now than it was last year. So all the money that I've saved and any gains I've been able to save, it's basically worth the same amount of money now. So it could be, if I had $1,000 in savings last year and now I have $2,000, it's not worth $2,000 anymore. It's worth less. So that's frustrating. And I don't see this being a good way to go into an election year in the US, because we have midterm elections at the end of 2022. I don't see this as a positive for Joe Biden and Democrats in this country. I think if I had to guess right now, obviously there's a lot of time between now and the election, and there is talk that Democrats are going to try to pass voter rights legislation, which means they're going to try to make it easier to cheat so that they can, they can keep some seats that they'll probably lose. So, it's not looking good. Those are the three disasters. So COVID is still not shut down. Gas prices are really high. Inflation is out of control. And that doesn't even bring up Joe Biden's disastrous Afghanistan pullout. You would think the party of Bill Clinton would be better at pulling out, but apparently not. So that is not good here in the U.S. I, however, believe that 2022 is actually going to... I see some reasons to be white-pilled, all right? There's to be optimistic. I think in the short term, we've got to be, really kind of down. It's like, hey, this is going to be a rough patch. Let's hunker down. We've got to make this work. But I think over the long term, I think there's reason to be optimistic. Number one, I think in a lot of countries, people are pushing it. The leaders are pushing it to where I think shit might really hit the fan in a lot of these countries. I mean, you're seeing concentration camps built in Australia. New Zealand's prime minister, she is psychotic. I mean, she is absolutely insane. Every time I see her speak about COVID, I really have no idea how there hasn't been a military coup in New Zealand yet, because it is just, she is insane. So anybody in New Zealand, get rid of her somehow. I mean, peacefully, obviously, peacefully. All right, vote her out. Whatever you got to do, make sure you're protesting. Do what you got to do peacefully. Don't do anything stupid. But she's got to go. She cannot be in charge of anything. I mean, don't let her run a hot dog stand. She's awful. But there's reason to be optimistic. I think people are going to realize that this has gone too far. Like, luckily in the U.S. we have guns, and we have a right to have guns. So I really think you're going to see, in the U.S. it's not going to get too out of hand. And I'm hoping that in some of these European countries and other Western countries, the people are going to really start to realize, like, no, we can't keep doing this. And I think I think there is reason to be optimistic that that's going to happen. I'm seeing a lot of protests pop up in a lot of these countries. And I think the more reserved countries, like the UK, I believe is a bit more reserved. The United States I think a bit more reserved. France, if people in France protest, that's what France does. They riot. That's, France riots, lol. Okay, but I think when you start seeing like legit protests, and here's the thing, I don't know how the UK goes, but in the UK, if you start seeing like legit like protests, people marching on Parliament, things like that, then something's really fucked, and it's a powder keg at that point. In the US, if you start seeing right-wing marches, and by right-wing marches, I mean people like me, who take a day off of work and march on their state capital or march to Washington, and really go out there and actually have protests. The right wing in this country will take a lot of shit. We've been taking shit for generations, and just that's why we've been losing the culture war over the last at least 30 to 40 years, and we just kind of accepted that. you know, the right wing in this country, we don't want to get violent, because if we get violent, we are not going to lose. So keep that in mind. So you have the reserved people are staying reserved. Well, it's been 2 years. People that are reserved are eventually going to get fed up with this. And I think, at least here in the US, I think you're starting to see it. You're seeing a crack in the narrative. If you follow the news a bit, you're seeing like the New York Times and other left-wing sites going, hey, I know, like Israel's saying you should get a fourth booster or you should get a fourth shot. But there are some people saying that too many boosters could actually mean that you can't fight off COVID. And there's all these things that are being said in a lot of left-wing sites, left-wing news outlets. So I think they're trying to slowly get the narrative off. And I think there are plenty of reasons to be very optimistic about the future, because once COVID lockdowns go away and people can get back to their normal lives, I think you're going to see a lot of optimism, and you're gonna see a lot of never again kind of stuff. I mean, for people that were in the U.S. when 9/11 happened, for a good two, I mean, that's why we invaded Iraq, because that's why George W. Bush could invade Iraq, because we were like, no, even though Iraq was not really a part of 9/11, we're not giving you a chance to become somebody who can do a 9/11 or worse. That's why George W. Bush was able to get away with convincing people like me, hey, we got to invade this country. It's like, all right, cool. Because there's a very never again feel. I think at the end of 2022, you're going to see that in a lot of countries where it's like, these kind of lockdowns will never happen again. And if anybody who even thinks about it is, you just don't even bother. So there is that. So that's my take. I think there is a lot of reason to be optimistic about 2022. Even though we've had a disastrous last couple of years, I think 2022 is that kind of, once we break free of COVID, I think we're going to be, I think the world is just going to come roaring back. And hopefully we'll have some leaders in charge of particular countries, especially the most important ones, which I believe are the US and the UK and Australia. Those are the three countries I believe are the most important countries to encourage freedom in the world. And we have to have solid leadership there. Right now, we don't in all three countries. All three countries are led by just terrible they did not handle this well at all. They have not handled COVID well at all. I had high hopes for Boris Johnson, and I think if Trump had gotten reelected, I think that Boris Johnson and Donald Trump combo would have been something similar to a Reagan and Margaret Thatcher kind of relationship. And I really think that combination could have brought down China the same way Thatcher and Reagan brought down the Soviet Union. So we missed on that. So find somebody that's, hopefully the UK, find somebody who's got the intestinal fortitude of Margaret Thatcher. I know a lot of people in the UK, they look back at Margaret Thatcher and they hate her, but I mean, hey, you get the name as Iron Lady for a reason. You need someone like that. And yeah, I mean, it looks like Trump's going to run here, so we might get Trump again in 2024. Who knows? But yeah, we need better leaders in place in all three of those countries. I don't even know who's in charge of Australia, but whoever is a fucking joke. So get rid of that clown and get someone who's really going to make differences for freedom in your country, not more lockdowns and more frustration and concentration camps. I mean, those are as close to concentration camps as I've seen in countries that aren't China and North Korea. That's as close as you can get. So I can't think of another word for them. So they're terrible. But that's really all I have for you here today. I'm going to update you guys right now a little bit on my workout. So, first day of the new year. Today is New Year's Day. I had to work today, so I put in a few hours today to get that holiday pay. But I did go on a walk with my son. Nothing crazy, just about 5-10 minutes. We ran around in the cul-de-sac out here and a little bit. So I did get some exercise in today. Nothing too crazy, but I'm starting off slow. Remember, I'm fat and out of shape. So Doing something very simple right now. I think tomorrow, me, the wife, and the kids will actually go on a much longer walk, do a little bit of cardio. I did clean up my diet a little bit today. Obviously better than the last couple of months, but it was just, it was mostly protein and vegetables. So I had a steak for lunch with roasted asparagus and green beans. And for dinner, I had some Chinese food, which was mostly chicken and beef. And I had some chow mein. But so I'm going to slowly get into it. Right now, it's not great. I'm not going ham on the first day, even though I do have some ham in the fridge. I should probably eat that. But we are, tomorrow, like I said, a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and hopefully over time, I'll develop habits of just being more active throughout the week. But like I said, I'm gonna be documenting, okay, I did this on this day and this on this day. That way you guys can kind of follow me a little bit on my fitness journey. I'll probably most likely post some videos here and there just randomly, like, hey, here's me doing yoga. Hey, here's me and my wife and kids, we're out on a walk. You'll see some of those things from time to time as we go forward. But as of today, it's day one. I only walked for about maybe 10-15 minutes, and I ate a little bit cleaner than I did, for Thanksgiving and Christmas time. So there you go. But if you guys have any comments or any ideas on topics that you want me to discuss, feel free to put those in the comments. If you think, if you like what I'm doing, go to my locals page, filthyheathens.locals.com, and subscribe. $5 a month if you want to support my work. I'm trying to get up to 100 people in there. Once I get to 100 people, then we can start, I'll start putting stuff behind a paywall. In the meantime, you can check out my Twitter page at Heathen Kirk on Twitter. That's where you get kind of my raw kind of stuff. I had kind of like a Michael Malice moment today where I was basically just trolling people. It was great. I was on a roll. I was feeling good about it. So, but yeah, it was fun. But if you have any show ideas, if there's anything going on in your neck of the woods that you would like some commentary on, feel free to let me know. I'll be more than happy to. I do read the comments. At least I do for now. So now's a good time if you want to trash talk. Feel free. And but yeah, hit me up on social media. Go to my locals page if you want to support my work. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in, and you have a great rest of your evening. Thanks, guys.